go, guys. We're on. Hello and welcome to Shooter Ready, the GBPRA podcast. Feel like we've already been going half the night. Me and the guys have been talking for about 20 minutes now. Can't get them to shut up. But anyway, we're on now, and we're not live, but we are recording. So without further ado, I'll introduce the show that we have tonight. Tonight's show, we are with the Open team that represented Great Britain and Northern Ireland at the PR22 World Championships in Italy this summer. This is season 3, episode 5 of Shooter Ready, and this is the last episode. You could call it the grand finale of a series of episodes interviewing Team GB. So welcome to the show, guys.
Hi.
Hey.
Hello. Thank you.
Hello. Just remember, this is on YouTube, so nods of heads and shakes of hands and things like that are okay for YouTube. But we're also on podcasts, so it's always good to also use your voice a little bit as well. I've done some podcasts where people sort of just start nodding away and just like, guys, you need to speak as well. You need to speak. You need to say something. Right. There's 6 of you tonight, so I'm hoping you're all going to talk over me. Well, all talk over each other. I don't mind if you talk over me. It might be good if I shut up a little bit. But just be mindful that there are 6 of you, and we need to be able to hear your voices. So it would be really, really good if we just sort of take turns with what we're saying. We should do introductions. I'll shut up and let's hand over the show to you guys. This is your show tonight. So let's do some introductions, starting with Dean Hadfield. Dean, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So I'm Dean Hadfield. Been shooting PR22 for about 2 years. Started out shooting centerfire and then sort of quickly realised that it's way too expensive for me. So jumped onto the 2.2 as more of a trainer. And then they started shooting PR22 at Monmouth, which is quite a local club for me. So headed down there and just sort of got the bug from that, really. I shoot a CZ 455. Recently had Mike Norris spin up a barrel for that, but he put in the works and made it sort of a full custom rifle. So it's not really a CZ anymore. It's more of a custom 2.2 for PR22.
Fantastic. So you just pleaded poverty there, and then you went and said that somebody built a very nice rifle.
It was we sort of said if I qualify, then that's sort of the treat for qualifying. So
yeah, a little bit of an investment there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Dean, welcome to the show. Thanks for going first and taking the pressure off Ben, who if anybody would like to know, he asked if he could go last. So just thought I'd embarrass you there, Ben, but I'm sure you'll get your own back on later. So next on the introductions, we have Tom Rice. Tom.
Tom Rice. I've been shooting since I was about 13. But only the last few years got into the competitive side of it, PRS. Started out with the centerfire, early days with PRO and stuff at Orion. And then started getting into it with the 2.2. Realised I'm probably a bit better with the 2.2 than I am centerfire. So running with that at the moment. I shoot at the moment, it's a standard Tikka barreled action in a chassis and Zyoscope on there. But it's actually with Mike Norris at the moment, getting a new barrel put on it. So I might be able to keep up with the rest of these boys next season.
I'll tell you what we'll do is once we're finished with all the introductions, we'll have to compare sizes. We'll have to see who's got the biggest. So we'll have a chat about barrel sizes once we've done the introductions.
As long as it's not beards.
Ryan was looking a bit worried there. He was wondering where that was going.
Are we talking about
we can do beards as well.
Not again.
Hi, Tom. Welcome to the show. So next up is, Lawrence Barnes. You're going to be no stranger to anybody on this show because you're our World Cup hero from France last year. But for those that maybe didn't hear that episode or hear about your exploits in France, you might as well go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, exploits is probably the right way of describing it, to be honest with you. The time in France, it was fantastic. But yeah, thank you very much. I'm Lawrence Barnes, and I've been shooting for about 17 years now. The bulk of that is in the clay shooting world, in sporting clays and FITASC, at home, nationally and internationally. That was my passion, really. I came across PRS by complete luck. really, like more than anything, and had a go. And as the majority of us can relate to, then that was it. I was hooked. Couldn't get enough of it. Started out through the GBPRA qualifying process at Ryan, obviously for the World Championship last year. And then when the PR22 started to come around, I thought, what a great way to train for centre fire matches. That was my first viewpoint of it, really. And then once I got involved with the matches, I realised, you know, it's not a completely different art, but there's some different nuances there, and I really enjoyed it. So I got involved, and very lucky to have made the illustrious company of these other chaps tonight.
Traditionally, we always think about yourself in centre fire as a top factory shooter, but for 2-2 made the switch over to open. Yes,
yeah, I did. It was primarily the fact that I already had a Bergara barreled action in an AI ATX chassis, the AICS chassis. And I did think about going to factory, and I thought, okay, I'll shoot a couple of selections and see how I stack up in open. And it came back a little bit more positive than I thought it was going to. So that ended up being my route into open, really. Although I did switch to a sort of full open custom rig towards the end, ready for the World Championship, with a Rimex action from Zermatt and a Phoenix barrel, still in the AI ATX chassis, with the standard Nightfall scope that I always run the Attack R. But yeah, really, really happy with that setup, and it definitely made a bit of a difference.
Awesome, good stuff. So next on my list for introductions is Ryan Charlton. Ryan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Ryan Charlton. I've been shooting probably for coming on 20 years, targets flirting in and out. And then in 2019, I discovered how much fun shooting PRS was with centerfire. Shot my first match in the US, and that was probably the best experience I could have had for shooting it. Came back, shot the PRL, did my first season shooting in the factory division, and quickly decided that shooting in the opens was where my heart lies, where there's no restrictions and you sort of got free reign. 2.2s and smaller stuff. I mean, my background's air guns, so smaller stuff is my bread and butter. And 2.2, if I could just keep one rifle, it would be a 2.2 LR. I don't know which one, but it would be a 2.2 LR. And yeah, crikey, we've since the NRL 22 started, and predating that back to the Squirrel Cup over on the other side of the county, just enjoy shooting tiny bits of lead at bits of steel. Was lucky enough to shoot the first qualifier. Shot that with my trusty rifle that I've had forever, and that was pretty cool. And then I shot the last qualifier with my first true open gun rather than a factory gun, with an Arca rail self-tapered into the stock. And having a chassis rimfire was everything I hoped it would be and more. And I've shot a whole bunch of 2.2 through that thing since then. So it's similar to a lot of the guys. It's a Rimex, which Mike Norris has done his funky stuff on, and it's pretty cool. I love it.
I'll have to get Norris on the show. Mike's coming up quite a bit, isn't he?
Yeah, he does a lot. I think for a lot of us, he's done. I know certainly for at least Ben and I think he's probably done every rifle that we own. Yeah. And every single one is consistent in how it performs. Excellent.
That's good to hear. So welcome to the show, Ryan. Next on the list is Andre Mills.
It's Andre Mills. Like Christian said, I started my road to shooting, actually bow hunting, when I was about 24 years old. Took that up for a couple of years and then transitioned to rifles, and found out that I enjoy sport shooting more than I do hunting with rifles. And yeah, I've been shooting PRAs for just over 3 years now. And then when the PR22 league started, jumped onto that. I think we used to shoot the NRL 22 up in Silverstone before that for a couple of seasons. which was quite a good laugh. And yeah, that's about it. That's where we are now. Lucky enough to have represented the GBPRA in France and now in Italy. So looking forward to a bit more.
Excellent. Welcome to the show, Andre. And last but not least, because he has to go last, was Ben Wood. Hi, Ben.
Hi, Christian. My name's Ben Wood. Yeah, as pretty much everyone else, I've shot pretty much all my life. I started sort of when I was very young. My mum and dad both shot competitively to a pretty decent level. So ever since I can remember, really, as a very, very young lad, I was following them around sort of skeet grounds and sporting grounds all around the country. Dad's always been a very keen sort of rifle shooter, foxing. I can remember as young as 3 going out with him, sort of lamping and spending many hours happily sat in the back of a Land Rover. It was great. My own sort of shooting, I started probably around 11. Started shooting a bit of skeet. That progressed into sort of sporting and then ultimate Olympic skeet. I had a bit of hiatus from about 16 until about 18 months ago, really. I started to do a bit sort of rifle shooting with a friend, just in the field, plinking, and it was great fun. All this weird and wonderful journey we've been on started as a bit of a dare, sort of, oh, PRS, why don't you have a go at that? And it was, yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, but we've sort of ended up where we are now. I started off getting a centerfire rifle spun up, as probably most of us have, actually, by Mike Norris. It's been fantastic. And then 2-2 actually for me started through Laura. I bought her a Rimex. I can't actually remember when. It wasn't too long ago, because she sort of seemed to prefer. Tom was very kind. He lent us a rifle, probably earlier this year, and we shot a little match at Pro Shoot where we all normally shoot, and Laura absolutely loved it. So I surprised her, got her the Rimex. And it was more, as I say, it was more for her. She started shooting a few matches, really enjoyed it. I sort of tagged along, and it was one of them, you may as well have a go while you're there, and turned out I was okay at it. Borrowed her rifle in a couple of qualifiers and managed to sneak into the team we're stood with tonight. So yeah, it's been a bit of a mad journey, really. So obviously when the qualified, I thought I'd get myself a rifle spun up. So I ended up with a Rimex like most people have, and long barrel, and yeah, here we are tonight.
Fantastic. Well, it's good to have you tonight. Thanks for joining us. And when you talk about your partner, Laura, that, of course, for all of our listeners and watchers' benefit, is Laura Foy, who was also Team Great Britain. Lee competed in the ladies' team for us, and actually was on the first episode of this series that we did a few weeks back. And you're not just the only person on the meeting tonight who's got a shooting partner who was out there in Italy. Ryan, you want to just tell us who your wife is, your famous wife?
Yeah, so my wife's Andrea Charlton, and yeah, I remember during COVID, she was pretty ill, and she ended up, the only way she could get out of the house was to come out with me, and she was writing down my chronograph figures, getting my my race gun set up. And once she'd recovered, she just asked me one day, will you teach me how to shoot? And I thought all my Christmases had come at once. And yeah, she's very much like Laura in that, you know, Andrea, she started with centerfire and she really enjoys the centerfire shooting, but I would say her primary interest, if she was going to focus on anything, would also be 2-2. I think it's Ben, Andrea, Laura, myself. We've all had the discussions. You know, it's shooting such a great leveler. You know, the girls can compete against any of us lot, and it's a genuine level playing field. You know, I know Andrea's done well at some matches. Laura's turned up at matches and taken names as well. And I think Ben will probably agree, watching your other half, your significant other, turn up and, you know, beat guys who, you know, you always want to see how they've done because they're the top boys is really cool. And I think that's something pretty unique, particularly with rifle shooting. Doesn't matter how big and strong you are, because you might be big and strong, but actually being smaller and more flexible will help. Or you could be big, strong, flexible, and handsome, just like Andre.
So there's a lot of man love for Andre, isn't there? Wherever you go.
It's too bad I can't shoot though.
Well, we didn't want to say, mate.
Fine.
So let's keep that man love theme going then. So who has got the biggest? Come on, who's got the biggest barrel?
Mr. Barnes.
I mean, I'm standing right out there at 26 inches, but I think Ryan's probably got me on girth.
26 inches on a 2-2.
Yeah.
My new one's going to be I've got a 26-inch proof comp contour on the way, and I'm planning Andrea's new rifle, which is a 26-inch MTU on a 2-2.
Wow.
Ben's is what's yours? 25-inch 1.2
25. It's straight profile, so it's quite a chunky boy.
You've got
that is a chunky boy. Absolutely.
Plenty of inspiration from Rice Ops.
So we've got Lawrence on 26, Ryan on 26, or about to transition at 26, Ben on 25 in a bit. Tom?
Oh, I've only got a little one.
Oh, sorry to hear that, mate. Oh, that's a shame.
So I've been told. No, mine's only a standard Tikka barreled action at the moment, so it's a 20-inch, and I think it's about 18 mil at the muzzle end when it tapers down. So it's pretty lightweight. That's why I have so many weights on the chassis trying to balance it up.
Your rifle weighs as much as Lawrence and Ben combined.
It does. Watching Laura shoot freehand with it was comical.
Yeah, that was a bit heavy for her, wasn't it?
Dean, what barrel do you run? What barrel length?
Mine's 24-inch straight contour.
Okay, all right, that's respectable. And Andre?
Yeah, it's only a standard CZ 457 20-inch barrel.
20-inch barrel. So for those people that are listening and wondering about such long barrels on 2-2 rifles, because what is it? Is it 16 inches that is enough length to get your full powder burn and pretty much optimal? So why is it, guys, that there's such a shift to look towards longer barrels for precision rifles? Does somebody want to just explain that?
Oh, you're going to open a can of worms now.
This is going to go down a rabbit hole.
Some might say they're overcompensating for something.
So me and Ben actually had quite long conversations about this when we qualified. We knew that Mike was going to be spinning at the barrels, so we started talking about lengths, twist rates, contours, and interestingly, Ben went for a 1 in 12 twist, whereas I've gone for a 1 in 16. And it's quite interesting to see the difference in accuracy between the two isn't that much, but then you look at the spin drift out of distance and things start to escalate there. But I think everybody just went for a heavy contour because obviously that's just going to help with the what's it called?
Balance
and barrel harmonics. So having the heavier contour, you're just going to get better barrel harmonics, and then the length affects your SD. So a longer length, you're going to get a better SD, which is just going to be more accurate.
Okay. And a longer barrel, I assume, puts a bit more weight out the front of the rifle for balance, so you're not having to put so many weights on chassis and so on.
It was more for me to match my centerfire. I wanted it to be sort of almost a mirror image of my centerfire. It felt sort of familiar in hand, but yeah, honestly, it's a rabbit hole you could dive down so deeply. Not that I'm known for doing that. But yeah, I obviously I went with 12 twist. I think, is it distinguishable between a 16? Probably not in reality. Does it give a little bit more spin drift? Yes. Does it hold good vertical dispersion at longer ranges? Well, Tom can attest to that. At his range,
Yeah,
sort of hitting a 2-inch target at 200 yards every single go, and it's incredible. I can't talk about the level of accuracy. It's sort of, if I sort of tune it in the garden, it'll shoot pretty much any offering from SK Lapua RWS, and you can shoot 20 rounds and you'll get one hob. So yeah, I think twist and length is one thing, but having it spun up by somebody who knows what they're doing is probably the key.
Yeah. It's fascinating stuff.
Agree.
I remember when we were all in Italy and talking to quite a few of the other shooters, and barrel length was coming up quite a lot. It was certainly a hot topic. When you were over in Italy, were there any other hot topics that were coming up on the range?
Yeah, the heat.
Yeah, hot.
The angry RO that was shouting at everyone.
Yeah. Ooh, another.
He was a pussycat.
He loved us.
He was fine. No, I mean, touching on the heat, I mean, so on our non-shooting days, Lawrence and I were in the same squad with our buddies were in the same squad. So Lawrence and I were hanging out quite a bit. There's a picture of Lawrence and I in the shade with a Kestrel, and the Kestrel showing 33, 34 degrees Celsius in the shade. That the sun was relentless. And that brought its own challenges, I think, for those of us not from warmer climates. And I think it's something that's caught me out a lot in the past. And I had my massive straw hat with more water in my backpack than anything else, and as much sunscreen as I could spray on my face. And that heat was one of the biggest challenges out there, I thought.
We've touched on the heat in some of the other podcasts with some of the other shooters that went out to Italy, and of course we had the experience in France as well with the high temperatures. Now this podcast goes out across the world. We're listened to in a number of countries worldwide, but predominantly we're listened to by people shooting in the UK. And you're right, we don't necessarily get to experience those extreme heats when we're shooting matches. So what would you say were the main challenges? Clearly, obviously, looking after yourself, your own fitness, your own well-being. But what other sorts of challenges did the heat bring to the precision rifle shooter in Italy?
So I kept my ammunition in like an insulated sandwich bag, not with anything to keep it cool or like that, but it was just a way of, it's going to stop it. If I keep my rifle and my ammo in the shade and make a conscious effort to do that, it's going to stay relatively level. If they're sticking it out, baking it in the sun, ammo is going to heat up. Could that affect my muzzle velocity? I don't know. We don't really get 34, 35 degrees Celsius over here. So it wasn't something I tested. It wasn't something I was prepared to risk. So I made a conscious effort to keep all of my gear in the shade, in the bag, covered, and then the ammunition was contained in the insulated bag, which was where I kept my loaded magazines. The magazines came out just before I was going on stage. So I tried to keep everything at as level a temperature as I possibly could do. And it was, I mean, I drink a lot of water anyway, but when we were shooting, I was getting through 1.5 liters of water per stage.
Wow. That's that's significant fluid intake. Sorry, Lawrence, you were saying something?
Sorry, I jumped in there. I found it a real challenge to carry enough water to actually have enough, because of the volumes that I was going through, much like Ryan. I mean, obviously we were pretty much joined at the hip for the duration. So it was, I mean, even when we were on our shooting days, we were only one squad apart. So we weren't that far from each other, which was a great experience, but we definitely piled through the water. And for one, I mean, Ben's tactical trolley that he's got,
game changer.
Yeah, that is, you can laugh all you want if you've never been to a PRS match like this one, but honestly, that when you're talking about competing at that high level, and there's 1 point in it, as we know from the other teams as well, that it literally can come down to less than 1 point. It can come down to the time.
Seconds, yeah.
Yeah, your performance is everything. So hydration, electrolytes, snacks, proper food, proper carbohydrates and energy is really a big factor. And yeah, I will be bringing along a tactical trolley next time.
Yes, Group I think is going to be well on the cards.
I think there'll be a few of them on the firing line soon.
That's
For everybody watching and listening then, Ben, do you want to describe what a tactical trolley is?
It's basically like, I think they're designed for camping. I'm not 100% sure, but we was literally in Go Outdoors one day and I was like, Ooh. And it's basically a, how do you describe, like a little American pull cart, but a fold up one. And it just allowed us to carry. I bought a little Yeti cooler and filled it full of liquid and food and chocolate and stuff. And I could have I thought if I can remove everything I normally carry and sort of reduce the fatigue to the maximum, then probably be beneficial. So yeah, it looked a bit silly, but it definitely had function.
Was it also good fun on the hill?
Well,
I've got a great video of him riding down the hill on it.
I didn't die. So
so not only does it serve a practical purpose, you can also have a bit of fun on it if you can find a bit of an incline.
Absolutely.
I think did Noah Smith did him and his dad they took along their toolbox, didn't they, on a set of wheels?
Yeah.
You always see them.
They've got a kit, a wheeled toolbox and stuff where they keep all the kit in a little plastic lockup one. Works quite nice.
So clearly, Italy was a case of making sure that you're managing the elements, the heat, staying hydrated, looking after keeping your equipment at a consistent temperature. I could imagine that you're over in Italy and there's a little bit of a desire to want to enjoy the experience and let your hair down a little bit. So I should imagine there can't have been too much drinking the night before the match because you don't want to be hungover and hydrated. So I guess, did everybody behave themselves?
Yeah.
Well, the night before the match, I don't think there was any drinking really. Everybody was so hungover from the night before that.
Okay, so you got the, and I'm talking as if I wasn't there, but that's my job as the host tonight. But I take it then you got all your drinking out of the way, did you, early on in the trip?
Got it all done on the first night, and we all felt rubbish afterwards, and we didn't want to drink for the rest of the time we was there, pretty much.
Definitely not.
It sounds like you had a good tactic then. I think it's important that when you go away, it's part of the team building experience, isn't it? As well as you've got to enjoy these moments, and I think it was great how everybody came together as a team over there and really enjoyed each other's companies, enjoyed the moment and the experience. So I thought it was important that people were socialising and clearly the team enjoyed that aspect of it as well.
The team sort of siege mindset and mentality of it was us against everybody else was fantastic, and then you sort of couple that in with the support that we all of us without question gave to every other team, whether it was spotting shots, backing people up when impacts were missed, sharing the water that we were all carrying, sharing food, snacks, wind calls, kit. And that wasn't, the sharing aspect wasn't just limited to the British team. It was everybody. But for me, that was one of the biggest highlights, was the whole of, it was a real team effort, a huge group effort. And I think personally, without the buddies having, might have been because it was my wife and I'll actually listen to her, but when I came off a stage, it was, here's masking tape, reset your turrets, reset your dope card, eat this, drink this, I'll be down there, come and sit in the shade. And that was, particularly towards the end of the second day, what kind of, when you're on autopilot and a bit tired, that sort of team, the level of team support, turning around, I could see Lawrence to my right and Andrea behind me, got Luca and Dean Scott to my left as well. And, seeing familiar faces and, the same coloured jerseys, all of that sort of spurs you on a bit. And I think all of us went there wanting to shoot as well as we could for everybody who's on the call at the moment.
Yeah. And I think it helped this year as well, having everybody together in a team hotel, and yeah, early on in the trip there was a bit of socialising going on and people acclimatising. Let's put it that way. But once it actually got into the actual training, the training day before the competition started, and then once we were into the actual competition, I must say everybody was well behaved, and the evenings actually turned into an extension of the way that the team was approaching it at things at the range. So do you want to just talk a little bit about what was happening on an evening after each day's shooting.
Loz, probably a good one for you.
I was just thinking, I don't necessarily want all the other countries to know how good it was. I mean, yeah, it was awful. We gained nothing from it. Nobody else should do it.
Waste of time.
But if you could just bleep out the next bit for all the other countries, Christian, that would be great.
I'll only publish it to the UK if I can.
Yeah, censored for UK viewers only.
I mean, I've been involved in teams before, obviously, prior to France and also including France. And one of the things that I feel like I really wanted to take forward from the France experience was when we had the MD come to us at the end of the match, when everything was, the dust had settled, and said, do you realise in the debrief that actually GB was the team of choice for all of the staff and the ROs and spotters? Everybody here has had something positive to say about you guys and the way that you conducted yourselves and how you've helped everybody. And I think we really took that as a goal, one of our main goals walking into this, that we wanted to come away with the same reputation intact. And fortunately for us, for all the guys I think I speak for, and the girls and the juniors and the seniors and everybody, it comes quite naturally to be like that. But also we were very much like that amongst ourselves in the respect of, like you say, we had a debrief in the hotel every evening. It was conducted very professionally. I really have to extend my thanks really to everyone, particularly Jack Crawford and Adam Sinfield for sort of taking the helm with regards to the accommodation and organising that, because I've not experienced something like that before. That level of, it sounds really cheesy, but that level of team spirit really was, I can 100% put a hand on heart and say that improved my performance. I know it improved the ladies, it improved the juniors. I'm only picking them out because I was buddied with Heather, one of the ladies, and obviously Andrea was in the same squad as Heather. So me and Ryan were with them on our days not shooting, and it really was something special. So I definitely think that all the other countries should never do that.
No, I really shouldn't.
I think you're right. The certainly my reflections on having been to two of these events now and observed from a distance, because I've never been there as a shooter, is that Team Great Britain does have that team mentality, more so I think than a lot of the other countries. But the way that we organise as a team, touched on the buddy system. This year we had the team hotel. It feels a lot more organised and professional than the approach that a lot of other countries take. I'll talk about the Americans just briefly. They always bring over a large contingent of family, so they've always got a lot of support and help there when the shooters are on the range. But again, it's a little bit less organised, whereas we seem to be a lot more organised as a team.
I think
100% we were.
Yeah, I think in all fairness, looking for, from a complete, just touching on your point there, you got to remember the Americans and all that come from quite a far, so they come to Europe. Maybe it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Now, for me, it has been both times. The first time I've been in France, and not the first time I've been to Italy, but the first time I went to France. So taking your family and all that with you is I think is just natural. But I think us as a team, the people that shoot PRS in the UK, as far as shooting sports go, are some of the best people that I've been shooting with prior to this. The level of sportsmanship, of camaraderie, just the amount of good people that I've met is really exceptional. I think that carries over into us as a team as well going forward. Yes, everybody's not going to get along all the time. Fair enough. That's just, personalities for you. But I think the UK PRS scene as an entity is a very good place to be. If you want to meet good people and enjoy your shooting and have fun as well. I mean, like you say, we can have the biggest finale competitions, the PRS finale, and people are still sharing win calls, still helping out with kit, still helping out if there's equipment failure. There's no animosity between most people. And so, I still think that carried over to Italy, and that's what makes us as a team so much more unified than the others might be.
Understood. Serious question now. Go on, I'll save my question, Lawrence. Do you want to jump in there?
Just going to concur with what Andre's saying, really. But the Americans mentioned about the geographical advantage, the fact that they qualify over such a wide area, and obviously East Coast to West Coast for them is more than a day's journey. So they may have never met the people who are top of their game on the West Coast. If they're on the East Coast, they might not have even heard of each other, really. And yet they qualify, and they're really thrown in at the deep end in the sense of, right, you're going to qualify, you're going to go, you're going to be on the other side of the globe, and you're going to compete with these people that you've never met. Now, if somebody is the top shot in Norfolk and somebody's the top shot in Wales, the chances are we're all going to know both of them. So maybe there is an advantage to being a much smaller island, but I suppose it's the offset of the ability that they have to go to shooting. But I just found it really interesting, the fact that there's so much that goes into making a team work, so much diversity and so many things that we wouldn't have taken into account.
Yeah. And we've got to remember that our sport is, to all intents and purposes, I know that we've got sponsored shooters, supported shooters, and so on, but to all intents and purposes, our sport is an amateur sport, and I think and that's why I made the point earlier about we should enjoy the experience. We should enjoy, as you're there to represent your country, so you've got to take that seriously, and you've got to approach it with the level of professionalism and diligence. But again, it's once in lifetime experiences. Never going to experience it again. You've all put your own money into getting there. It's not like you're doing it, for a wage or a salary or something. So, you should enjoy that experience. And we see that with a lot of the countries, don't we? And we've done it ourselves, where we bring family members over and make a proper event of it, But again, in terms of the level of professionalism we put into that whole team ethos and approaching it as a team competition, and not just because once you get up there, you're an individual shooting, aren't you? But we definitely put that team ethos around it. But my question was going to be, do you, and it might be a necessary evil, but do you find the buddy system is a bit of a double-edged sword in some respects?
Yeah.
Go on, Ben. You were straight in there.
It may sound sort of, I don't want it to sound selfish in any way, but it definitely, I'll speak in my own sort of circumstance. I found it difficult having to, so I was buddied obviously with Laura. She shot the first day, so I'm the buddy following around the first day. I honestly found it more taxing thinking on her behalf, sort of wind, doing sort of being as helpful as I can for her than I did for myself. So by the time I got to the end of my first day shooting, I'd already shot a match. Like that would be a normal 2-day match for me. So yeah, my own performance, I reckon maybe could have been a little better because of it. But did the team? I think it was definitely for the benefit of the team. The buddy system, I think it really did help in respect of sharing win calls, being able to maybe share different approaches on different stages, stuff like that. That really did that was really
and Ben, if I can just jump in and supporting less experienced shooters as well, because you guys have just done your introductions and talked about years and years of shooting. But we had some people on the team that, it's the first time they shot a precision rifle match, and those guys definitely needed that support from the more experienced.
100%, especially with some of the targets. Like, I don't know, we in this country, maybe, I'm not sure it's the same around the world, but our targets are normally a lot sort of closer to the ground. So you always get some sort of fall of shot. Over there, it was not uncommon for the targets to be 6-8 foot high. If you're not watching your bullet go in, i.e. the trace, you were really sort of struggling. You could have had a really bad day. So I think, yeah, especially for some of the newer shooters, maybe not being as versed in it, it would have been a real struggle without somebody sort of behind them when they come off the stage. If they had a couple of issues, maybe with the wind or positionally, just to sort of put an arm around them hypothetically and go move on to the next one for maybe more sort of a little bit more prepared than he otherwise should have been or could have been.
Yeah, understood.
I didn't realize how mentally exhausting it was going to be being a buddy, because you were me and Ben were together. I was buddied with Holly and Ben was with Laura. So obviously you're preparing them for the stage, and there was a lot of pressure then on us to give them the correct wind calls, and then we'd also be spotting for them. So we'd be on glass all day, sort of trying to figure out what's going on for them, making sure that every impact that they got was called. And at the end of the day, even though we weren't shooting, it felt like we had been, and you got that exhaustion coming off. And then, although it was great because we'd run through the whole course of fire, we then had to go and shoot it the next day. So it was, like you said, a double-edged sword.
I think any advantage gained from seeing the course of fire was definitely degraded by the sort of wear and tear you'd had from that day. I think I would rather have walked into that and having not seen the course of fire, having not seen the girl shoot it, and sort of still had that level of energy. But as Ryan alluded to at the beginning, I got much more pleasure watching Laura succeed. Like, that was for me much sort of outweighed any personal or team for me personally.
I think also, just to jump in there, that I think as time goes on, the effects will be neutralized in the aspect of it being more 50-50, because as the other shooters become more experienced and obviously they were very much thrown, a lot of the people in the teams were very much in at the deep end. They didn't necessarily have the experience of competing at a level, let alone internationally at all, or at any championships. So I do think for some of the team it was much more one-sided. I definitely agree with that. But that said, I mean, obviously Heather had barely shot PRS at all before, and she was my buddy. I can 100% agree that yes, it did take something out of me. Would I change it? No, I wouldn't, because
I agree with that.
The whole experience, it positively affected my whole experience, seeing her achieve as well as she did and being part of that as a team. And the same with Annie and Ryan. Obviously, Annie had some massive mechanical issues, and the way that she dealt with it and they both dealt with it was part of the reason that we're there, to be as professional as we can be in the sport, really. And I think it's the more that their skill level comes up and we're not necessarily coaching them, we're essentially, in the future, we will be buddying them. We won't necessarily be coaching them, because certainly I can only speak from my own experience, it was quite an intensive coaching on my off days, where I was coaching Heather, or, buddying her as best I could. And yeah, I mean, that was a 4-day marathon of a competition for me. Like I said, I wouldn't change it at all, but I think in the future there will be much more the case that you spend the day, you're on glass when you need to be, but you don't necessarily need to be quite as engaged as we were through the whole thing, because people are going to have their independence. They're going to have a lot more experience as well, hopefully.
Yeah, I think that's what I was finding with Dunk. He's obviously an experienced shot. It was basically turned into me working out what my wind holes were going to be. I'd stand there, look at the flags, tell him what I thought it would be. He'd go in with it, and it'd probably hit the target. So for me, it was beneficial that way. But yeah, having 4 days on the range definitely takes it out of you.
I just want to come in there, and it just goes back to what you said earlier about us being, as a team, I wouldn't say far superior, but our team spirit being so much better. That this buddy system has yielded so many medals. I mean, as a country with so many novice shooters going into this World Championship, for us to come home with so much silverware, just is testament to the amount of work that we've put in as a team with each other, working with the new guys. So yes, it was difficult. I'm not saying it wasn't difficult, but I think the reward is worth the price we paid at the end of the day.
I mean, look, the sport hasn't got the money that golf's got, where you've got a caddy who's following you around the course and giving you all the advice and support that you need, and as you as the professional golfer, we're nowhere near that sort of situation. So it is very much a needs must. And I think you're right, though, Andre. It's a good way to just round that off to say the results speak for themselves. France and now Italy, we've been massively successful as a team, Great Britain. So yeah, the proof's in the pudding, really.
Yep. Well, I think we did amazingly well as Team Great Britain, to be honest. Especially taking into consideration the amount of, I would say novice people we took with us in the other categories. Yes, it's put a strain on the open guys, or the guys that have been shooting longer, but I think the reward was worth the effort.
But just on the buddy system, with Andrea, my wife, shooting on my off days, there is no way, even if there wasn't the buddy system, I would not have been there with her, supporting her and everything else. So Ben, you'd have been there with Laura, regardless of what it took out of you. So if we're there, we may as well be there and give them as much as we can, and ensure that they have all the support that they have. I mean, watching Lawrence working with Heather, and Loz, if you think back to the range day we all had on the Wednesday before the first day, when you and I were working with Heather and Ewan and with Holly, and there was so much support and coaching going on. But I took a lot from, I learned a lot from listening to Lawrence. It's helped me figure out ways to explain it. Andrea learned a lot listening to how Lawrence was explaining the win. She's heard me say it before, but she got to hear a different voice say it, and that she picked different bits out of it. From when I was shooting, even little things like, Andrea's tiny. She picks up my big rucksack, she puts it on, it's as big as she is, and she's walking down to the next stage and sitting down in the shade, just making sure that when I get down there's a shady spot for me to go and sit in. And for me, that was the most valuable part of it. Yeah, okay, it sucks being on your feet for 4 days, but I'm probably the least fit out of all of us. And it's hard enough being on your feet for 2 or 3 days solid. So 4 days in the heat, having somebody who for 2 of those days was solely focused on making sure that I was sat down and in the shade, because I wouldn't have done that on my own. That was the big thing for me.
You know what? You make it sound so nice. I actually feel sorry for Simon Catling, because there's the target. Go shoot it now. You missed it, you idiot.
Do you guys feel that with the whole international aspect, shooting for your nation, representing your country, do you guys have a sense of sort of responsibility, though? Do you feel like you're on a little bit of a mission as a team to try and improve everybody on the team, all those people that and some people come and go on the team, but we have and we've demonstrated this through France and Italy. We've got a core of shooters that have represented the country now at both. And where we didn't have certain divisions represented in France, we've now got them. We've now had them represented in Italy, and I'm talking about ladies and juniors. Do you feel like there's something bigger than yourselves as individual shooters, and there's something that you guys are building for the nation as such in the sport?
Massively.
Yeah,
it's very important.
Lawrence,
sorry, Audrey.
Who's going? Okay, I'll go. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll speak as obviously a non-native coming to the country. I feel that there's massive pressure, and it's not. I would say not more pressure to pull people up or raise other people up, but for me to pull my weight and represent myself to the best of my ability to, to make my teammates proud of me. And I don't know if that's a selfish way of looking at it, but it's more of a way of, I do not want to let my teammates down. Don't want to let my family down, and don't want to let my country down, because, that is where I live, and that's whose jersey I'm wearing at the time. So that's the responsibility that I took with me, was the fact that, I had to make sure that I do my country proud at the time.
I mean, very true. And what about in terms of, trying to move the team results forward, the team performance forward for the next Worlds, and then move it forward for the next Worlds again? Because, we've had podium finishes as teams in France, quite a few. We've had podium finishes now in Italy as well, in most of the divisions. And, is there a desire from you guys to make sure that, that team performance keeps rising, not just your individual performance?
Yes, very much so. It's I think the only way it will happen is with more regular, higher level competitions. This year has been the perfect demonstration of that, with the national leaderboard that the GBPRA have put on. There's a rimfire match at the weekend. I would guarantee half of the people on that leaderboard will check how things have moved around them to see who's where and who's done what. And people are traveling, the length and breadth of the country. And we drove from Leicestershire to Devon a few weeks ago. Alan Rowe had come down from Wales. There was people from all over, and it did nothing but rain the entire time. There's rimfire matches happening up by York, where you were, Christian, at the weekend. And the more that we get used to traveling, the more we all get used to competing against each other. Like Ben said earlier, when one shot counts, you want to be around the guys who are going to make that one shot count, so as you can focus and raise your game. And, a rising tide lifts all vessels. The more that everybody's shooting and helping each other, and the concentration levels are increasing, the more it's everybody, the entire standard across the country will increase.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that.
There was a lot of effort. There was a lot of effort that went into preparation for Italy, as well as with the team shooting together. And Tom, how did you feel that went in the run up to Italy, with all of the training sessions that were being held down at Monmouth? And do you think that's something that we should be taking forward for USA next year?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's great just turning up and shooting with the guys as much as possible. I mean, I got the little range out the back of my place. We had regular meets down there. There's no better practice for it than actually put in competition conditions. I can go out there and stand there of an evening and let off 200 rounds, but it's not the same as having a group of people stood behind you with a buzzer going off in your ear and the time pressures of a proper stage. Being able to do that on a regular basis with everyone else is massively important, really.
I think to kind of come to the crux of your question, though, what would make it better is if these practice days were massively beneficial. But where we could improve it would be we already share, I know that, but if we could have a more structured way of preparing, a more structured way of analyzing each other, seeing where we can improve, because that's the only way you do improve, is by somebody pointing out your faults and you being humble enough to accept them and work on them. Arrogance will never get you moving forward. So I think with my little GBPRA hat on now, a structured training program for our team moving forward will be a massive benefit, and all the shooters working together to sharpen everybody else's skill, including their own. Because at the moment, I mean, individually, and I mean, we have got some serious talent in this country individually, but with the amount of rounds the Americans put down and the facilities they've got, and that it'll be very difficult for us to compete with them on an individual basis. I think as a team, as a collective, we stand a much better chance of keeping or putting a little bit more pressure on them that way than we would as individuals and going into the next World Championships as an individual. So yeah, that's my little GBPRA head off now. So
and I think you're right, Andre. Just again putting the GBPRA hat on, we know that we had to get things off the ground during difficult circumstances for France. Once the dust had settled on France, we were straight into trying to organise qualifications for Italy in the same year that we were in the qualification season for the USA as well. But things are starting to balance out now. So, qualification for USA will be done on the 29th of December, the C2 precision match down in Devon. And once that's done, we can then get on with selecting a team a full 8 or 9 months ahead of the competition in USA, giving us a great opportunity to really, lean into that competition with some good preparation, be it practice, logistics, whatever it might be. And obviously, from the shooter's perspective, there's then the PR22 in 2025 to then qualify for next year. So we're going to find that we're in quite a nice cadence in terms of a 2-2 Worlds 1 year, Centrefire Worlds the next year, and it'll keep moving on like that. And then we can structure, as the GBPRA and as shooters across the country, we can structure our preparations to that cadence of events.
I just jump on to say I 100% agree with everything Andre said, and that's actually something that's really of personal interest to me. I think if we all work together for team development, it helps your personal development as well. So outside of this, if that's something we could talk about, that would be cool. The other thing I wanted to sort of touch on was the fact that I'm aware that other countries do their team selections differently. And I think I've mentioned it to some people and it seems quite controversial. I've mentioned it to other people and they seem to think it makes sense. Again, obviously we're always looking at the Americans for how it's done because they've been doing it for so much longer. But they do have their open, limited factory qualifications, etc. But what they're told when they apply is that those positions will be filled by a higher scoring shooter, irrespective of the category that they wanted to shoot in. So let's say if you've got somebody in factory who's qualified at 200 points, and the next person is at 150 points, but somebody shot in open and they've got 175 points, they will be offered the opportunity to shoot in factory before the other people who shot in the factory division. The idea being that the top ranked shooters for the country fill the spaces in the teams before the people who've actually gone there. I understand there's some limitations for that with us because of licensing, cost. A lot of those guys can swing a sponsorship, not easily. I'm not saying that they don't earn it, because they very much do put the work in, but it's much easier for them to say, okay, well, we're going to put a factory team together of 4 people, go to a manufacturer and say, right, we need 4 rifles, because the market over there is worth so much money. That's not necessarily a bad investment for that manufacturer to provide those rifles, and there's no licensing issue. We don't have that. So I think somewhere in between that, it's certainly, that's just my opinion on it. I think it's something that we could open the topic of conversation about, because we do have some strong shooters that are sitting just outside of open qualification, inevitably. And personally, for me, ego aside, whether it affected me poorly or not, I'd like to see us put the strongest team possible.
And it's a fascinating position to see how different countries do it, and clearly there's debates that can be had about what the correct approach can be. Be interested to hear if anybody else has got any thoughts on that.
I do. I totally see what Lawrence is saying, and he's 100% right. But you have to take into context our shooting scene. And at the moment, we're trying to encourage people to join these categories. So on my side, like I said, to pick the strongest team would be the most beneficial, and to pick from the top shooters would be the best way to do it. So you're 100% right. The problem that you would run into there is then you'd have factory shooters that have invested money, time, and effort into committing to a set category, and then their place being taken by an open shooter. So then you discourage people from entering those categories. Because why must I struggle the whole year shooting a factory gun, taking all the time to go, and then just be what's the word I'm looking for? Not just be superseded by an open shooter. So, like I said, for talent-wise, yes, they've got it right. They got it 100% right. But they've got such a massive pool of shooters to choose from that it makes sense for them. We're still trying to grow a sport. Like Christian said, we are an amateur sport in the UK, so to speak. But or 99% of us are amateur shooters. So for us, it'll pay dividends to support the categories as they are and the people that commit to them throughout the year. At the moment, that's my opinion. But Lawrence, you are 100% right. It would be better for the team to choose the top shooters and take them rather.
What's fascinating is if you look at the different divisions that we've got in the UK and the shooters competing nationally, we don't actually have a lot of people that are actually competing in the factory divisions. It is a very, very small pool, and it's even smaller when you look at limited. So it's an interesting comment, isn't it, an interesting concept to do away with all that consideration about divisions and just look at who are the top shooters. But then again, I mean, a question might be, maybe put it to Ben or Dean to see what you guys think, but what about you might take that next in line open shooter, but then put them behind a 308 and pop them into limited division, and maybe they just can't compete anymore because the performance drops right off, not because they've moved over to a 308, but just because they're not practiced on a 308, they've not competed with a 308 before, and they just suddenly find that they're just not suited to it.
As somebody that shot open category in 2-2, and then for my last centre-fire match shot factory, it's very difficult to approach a stage knowing that I can't just slap a bag on an Arca rail and run tripod rear. You've got to really sort of think and analyse a stage as how you're going to approach it going into factory. So I think if someone was to shoot open all year and qualify, and then all of a sudden go, right, I'm going to shoot factory because I've scored a few points higher than somebody in factory, when they change to factory, they might not have that advantage as to somebody who's shot factory all year and knows their game plan already going into a stage.
Yeah,
I think with factory though, it's a bit of a weird one. So for me, if I had to be given sort of Adam Farwell's little ticket, I'd be nowhere near. So I think you are definitely fit to your rifle and you're good in the application rather than just a good shooter. I think if you gave me his rifle, I would be nowhere. Where you look at some of the other factory shooters from other nations, I think what we've got to sort of commend is our factory shooters were, this may be a bit of a strong term, but in the spirit of factory, where they were actual factory rifle CZs or factory rifle Tikas in a sporting stock, and it was still right there. Like you've got to sort of give them real kudos where it's due, because I definitely couldn't do that.
Like I said, yes. Sorry. Now, to come back to what Lawrence said, I just had a bit of a think about it. So my only way of getting around it and still improving people's want to participate is to have a handicap system where you have to be within a certain percentage of an open shooter to kind of secure your spot. If you fall too far behind percentage wise in the certain category, then then obviously you're not at the level that we need you to be to compete. So so yeah, like I said, if we can bring something like that in, yes, I fully agree with you. Then we can implement it.
I think I probably oversimplified when I said earlier. I actually do think Andre's right. I think that's how the Americans do it. I won't pretend to know their selection process off by heart. It's just I listened to one podcast and thought it was of interest.
Oh, okay.
So
you'd never listen to podcasts, mate. Don't trust the podcast.
I think he's absolutely right in the sense that's how they do it. In that.
Oh, okay. No worries. I was just thinking of how to make it work. That's all.
Yeah. And I think also touching on the differences, like I 100% agree with what the guys are saying. That I'm not saying that this is the way that we should do it. I just think it's really makes a good topic of conversation to look at the different ways of doing it, and talking about even the difference with limited. And our guys in the PR22 factory using very much what factory division was conceived for, like go and buy a gun you'd see in any gun shop and be competitive with it, and that's what they did, and they did incredibly well with that. But obviously looking towards next year, obviously being the centre fire, it's slightly more open because of the way that the industry's moved with factory rifles now, and obviously with the limited rifles, you can run a full-on open gun as long as it's in 308. You could have a 28-inch 1.2 straight bottle barrel if you wanted to, with it could be 30 pounds. Now, as a factory shooter, a die-hard factory shooter in centerfire, it is, I can say it's my opinion that it really is a different kettle of fish compared to what the open guys are doing positionally. But there are a lot of skills that you can transfer over. And I think, well, I don't know. I'll leave that one open. Ryan's pretty keen to jump in there.
Well, either Ryan's wanting to jump in, or he's just indicating to Andrea that, yes, please, I would like another cider.
Yeah. I have actually run out. But no, look, the factory thing it's a real interesting point. And I think personally, I think it's the hardest. With some of the restrictions, it makes it the hardest division to compete in. However, you look at some of the allowances, there's restrictions, there's allowances. You look at the allowances. I mean, I'm going to bring Adam Farwell up again for shooting a Tikka T1X that was so box fresh, it still had the sticker on the stock. He's going up against rifles that are basically the same as my open rifle. You look at the factory guns in centerfire that can come in, and well, they're the same as my open rifle. They're in 6BR, 6BRA, 6-dasher with a fully adjustable chassis and a massive chunky monkey barrel on there. It's kind of become another division where people shoot £10,000 rifles against other dudes with £10,000 rifles, only they can't hang £100 bag off the end of it. It's kind of how factory division's gone. And I'd like to see, I think it would work for the rimfire. And, speaking as somebody from the industry, 1,000,000% it could happen. You turn up to rimfire world championships with 100 factory shooters, have serial numbers from 1 to 100. We'll have a draw for factory shooters. This is the serial number gun you're going to shoot. This is the factory division. You turn up, you're given a gun, you give the gun back at the end of the competition. Person who scores the highest with that gun, hey, you're the best factory rifle shooter in the world. Because otherwise, we see the sort of things that we saw. It's where the rules are getting bent. There was pipe lagging on bipods, so people could instead, because they couldn't have an Arca bag on, well, if I put pipe lagging on my bipod, that's the same as having a bag on the end of the Arca. No, it isn't. You're literally trying to flout and bend the rules, which is always going to happen in the competition, and that's why competition's so great. But let's not kid ourselves that factory division is an easy division or a division where the equipment's fair. The equipment goes from like a 400 quid CZ up to a £6,000 MPA, whatever, or the fully blown Anschutz there with full factory Anschutz team support.
Yeah, and Anschutz did very well, didn't they, in the factory?
They smashed it.
Well. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to Adam. Adam really impressed me. Honestly, out of all the shooters going to Italy, his shooting was phenomenal. With the kit he had and what he done was, honestly, I take my hat off to you, sir. He did really, really well.
He's a stud.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Look, guys, it's absolutely fascinating getting into conversations about the technical aspects of the sport and also, I guess, the way that selection's organised and other topics. And I could certainly talk all night and ask questions about that sort of thing and all night. And then maybe we need to arrange another podcast to get into all of that. But what we really probably need to move on to now is to talk about the success that you guys had in Italy. So, who wants to tell us about that?
I'll have to switch off though now. Say goodbye.
I think Ben should go first. He went last, and he also did exceptionally well.
I don't really know where to start. I don't know. How do I even start? Shooting in England for me has always been, I've always overthought things and sort of have been bothered by the noise, if I'd use that as a metaphor. But going into Italy, I kind of came in very much with the mantra of if the gun goes bang and the meth goes ding, everything else is irrelevant. And sort of that carried on quite well for me. I was quite concise with how I set up for the stage. I was very sort of organised in my approach. But as soon as I got onto the stage, it was very much so all I was worried about was the wind, because that was what was catching most people out. A lot of the flags lied. I think a lot of people got duped by sort of the wind, and it was really tricky. But it was definitely manageable. You could definitely keep on top of it. But I think the way that we sort of, as a team, again, shared stuff and moved forward stage to stage really did help. I think, it was. I don't think we'd have been as successful as a team without that system in place. So I think a lot of, I may have shot better than I maybe could have done, but I think a lot of that is down to sort of how we set up.
Yeah. Tom, how did you feel the competition was for yourself on a personal level?
Yeah, I mean, it started off really well. I mean, me and Ben are always sort of level pegging for points and stuff. We're not often within 1 or 2 points at the end of a comp. And it started that way as well for me. First 5 or 6 stages, I think there was like 1 point between us. I had an issue, I think the scope going into a prop and it threw the zero off. From that point on, it was all downhill for me then, really, whereas Ben managed to keep his cool and continued through. But it was a good experience. I had a similar sort of experience in France last year. Had a problem with a rifle on a stage, and then again that just sort of blew me head a little bit, and it all went downhill after that as well. But it wasn't too bad.
I think the key there is just to keep you cool and just keep pegging away.
Yeah,
keep pegging.
Dean, did you have some equipment issues while you were there as well? I think.
Yeah, I had a bolt failure midway through a stage. It decided to exit the rear of the rifle and almost hit me. So that put that stage out for me. I knew what I needed to do to fix it, but I couldn't do that there. So I had to then pack up all my kit, run down the hill to get to the zero stage to take the rifle apart and try and fix the rifle quickly and get back up on the hill to shoot the next stage. So that threw a spanner in the works for me.
Yeah. But you enjoyed the experience, enjoyed the competition itself? Unbelievable,
yeah. The whole experience was just sort of mind-blowing. Being able to represent Britain, I don't think I'll ever forget walking down the streets, listening to the national anthem and that actually being played for us. There was tears in my eyes at that point. I was just blown away by that. So it was amazing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think the performance is almost secondary when you think about the actual experience. Andre, how was your competition?
I think I've just finished off paying my psychiatrist bill for kind of recovering from for my therapy afterwards. In all honesty, it was humbling. I concur with what Dean said. The opening ceremony and everything like that was amazing. The whole trip was amazing. I don't know if it was the remnants of limoncello and grappa that was still in my system that caused it, but in all honesty, going into the competition, I was quietly confident. I thought that you know, 2-2 room, the 2-2 side was my strong suit. You know, winning the NRL 22, winning the PR22, for last year, being ahead on the leaderboard this year. I really thought that, I wouldn't say there was pressure, but I thought I could do it. I thought I could represent and say lead the team, but do well, and give the Yanks a run for their money. And no, I failed miserably, and
not failed, mate. Maybe it just didn't come together quite for you.
No, it was humbling, and like I said, I still trying to figure out what I actually did wrong. Ben said that the wind was tricky, and I think there was a few more things that upset my apple cart on that week, but yeah, it was an exceptional week, as well as France was. Competing at that level at any sport is always a massive experience. So
yeah,
I'll take all the positives away from it. Personal performance wise, I'm dejected about it. I wanted to do better, but still extremely happy for what we achieved as a team. To walk away with silver medals is still a massive achievement, and I'm still just happy that I actually contributed to the score, at least for that.
Yeah, and just coming back to my previous point, this is 2 World Championships now for some of you, and what's happening now in I'll say the GBPRA, because we're all members of the GBPRA, but what's happening now in the GBPRA is we're building that wealth of experience, wealth of knowledge and understanding of what it takes to be able to compete at these sorts of events. And I just think that bodes well if we use that effectively, that knowledge and experience effectively. It bodes well for future competitions, I feel. I think whether you perform really well, whether you perform not so well, I think it's all learning, and it's all things that can be applied for next time. Ryan, how was your match?
The match itself it went pretty good. I mean, I went there. To me, it was just one big adventure. It was a 10-day long adventure. I got to drive through France and Italy with Andrea, hang out with a load of people who I hold in exceptionally high regard, and walking through Deruta, like the guy said, with the flag in team colours, holding Andrea's hand as we went through. That was an amazing moment. And going from that high when Annie then had the equipment failure on the first day, and trying to keep a calm head for her, I sort of took that calm head in with me on our first day, my first stage. I ballsed it up entirely. It was the tank trap, and I mean, I've known all of you guys long enough. If I told you it was a 4 or a 5 I scored on the tank trap, I think it was a 4. And that was like, okay, well, we've got to keep plugging away, because the last thing I wanted to do was let everybody else down or anything else. And sort of really rallied and sort of pulled my socks up, concentrated hard throughout the first day. And the end of the first day, I think Ben and I were right up there. Loz was not far behind as well. And I thought, right, going into the next day with the ladies shooting, it was a different mindset. Lawrence and I were bouncing off each other with ideas. What would we do? And then coming into day 2, I don't think I could have started any better. That was pretty cool. I looked at the scores sort of halfway through at lunch, when we were sat at lunch, and I was tied for 3rd at lunchtime on the second day. And sort of coming up the hill, which was the top of the hill, was where I started the afternoon off, and that was, the wind was flitting from sort of a 10 to a 2 mile an hour wind, and couple of the Europeans in my squad were right up there as well, inside the top 10. And, you know, I was watching those guys missing, like they'd been on fire the previous day and all morning, and they were just missing off either side. So I made a real conscious decision to slow right down. And my last 5 stages, I timed out on every single one. And I remember speaking with Greg Stewart, the American captain. Neither of us had ever worked so hard to walk off of the stage and miss 2 shots. You know, it's like, how has this been so much effort? But it was, you needed to see, you know, Ben mentioned it earlier, you had to see your shots, you had to watch the bullet all the way in. And it was the Italian, you know, the Italian bar, the red, white, and green bars, the railway ties with the, there. And I was the first person to shoot. That was our last stage. And I came off it. My opening wind call was 0.2 right. It then went to 0.5 right. It then went to left edge, to 1 mil left, to 1.5 mils left. And that was where I finished on it, all in the space of 90 seconds. And Marcus, the Austrian guy in our squad, said to me as I was just walking off, trying to process what had happened, he said, "May I ask you a wind hold?" I was like, okay, I need to sit down and explain this because this was crazy. And, you know, you got Greg Stewart there with his electronic wind meter, and he's like, yeah, what I'm seeing on this thing is showing that. And it was that conscious effort and having the experience that we've gained in, right, there's the only way now for me to do this, I can't go fast and be excited like I usually am, is to slow down, be methodical. If I time out, I time out, but I'm going to see every single shot. And I think that was the key takeaway from me was, you know, I could see Lawrence doing really well to my right. I could see Luca doing really well to my left. And, you know, everybody around me was doing fantastic. All I've got to do is just keep chipping away. It's going to be tight because we knew the factory guys had just beaten Australia on time, tied for score, won on time. And it's like every point counts. I need to make every point count for the boys either side of me. And it was just right, slow it right down and make each shot count was my mindset. And it's something I've taken away. The PRS full ball finale, I timed out on a couple of stages there, but you know what? I saw every single one of those shots when things got tricky. And, you know, that's I think that will stand me in good stead. It's something I've tried to work hard at and will continue to do so. If I can watch every shot and then speed up again, hey, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I remember Paul Dallin, who came second overall for the competition, was in Luca's squad, and he spent a little bit of time just doing some coaching with Luca on the day he wasn't shooting, and he was talking a little bit about how he trains himself to be able to see those bullets in flight. And he was just like, yeah, just get a box of 50, just lay down, and I'll just fire them off, and I'll be just trying to spot them, trying to watch them. And he's got a little technique to it, but just put so many rounds down range, and all he's doing is just making sure that he can see every single bullet in flight.
Paul's a machine. He's probably one of the nicest guys. I met him over in Nevada last March. Yeah, last March, shooting an RL22X match. And Paul won that match convincingly, and he is unreal with his how he approaches things. Every shot is perfect. He won't accept anything other than a perfect shot, and I think that's probably something we could all take away from watching the guys who are sort of leading the charge with where 22s are going.
Yeah, absolutely. Lawrence, how was your match, mate?
Seems like a long time ago now, Christian, to be honest. Lots happened since then. I mean, been to Kansas for the PRS, the full ball finale, so that all seems like quite a while before that. But
try your hardest, mate. Cast your mind back to it.
Yeah, I'll just cast it back. To be honest with you, the things I take away from it is not really just my result, but to add on to what Ryan was saying about how positive an experience it was at that match. I mean, it's always part of the joy of competing internationally at those sorts of things to meet new people, like-minded people. And that sounds really cheesy again, but that genuinely is a huge attraction for me, that the people you just never know that you're going to bump into. And I mean, obviously, with Ryan on our days off, talking to Dakota Wright and Camden Powers, like particularly got on really well with Camden, and she's a sort of protege, I suppose you'd say, of Paul Dowling, and chatting to them about the way they train and just hearing a different side of things was really, really valuable for me. I am genuinely happy with my result. I do feel like I could have shot a little bit better, but I feel like I pulled it back in the sense that I had a couple of stages where I felt like I was sort of holding on to it. It was the performance was very greasy and it was slipping away from me, sort of thing. And then, but somehow managed to pull it back. And then I'm really pleased with how consistent it became after that. And I managed to get my head down and get stuck in, and really, like the other guys were saying, to echo that, really to get my head around spotting those shots and correcting on the clock, really, not just making a win call and going with it. Really, it's a constantly fluid, moving thing. Trying to stay ahead of that. And just really happy with how it went as a whole, to be honest. I'd love to have more controversial things to say about it, but the experience as a whole was fantastic. I think the Instagram post that I said about after the competition was that I don't think I've been to a genuinely more wholesome feeling event. The way that everybody, not just us as GB, the way that all the countries were together, there was no animosity. Apart from the ones trying to cheat the factory rules, obviously they were pretty arsey about something.
that got put to bed pretty early, though.
Yeah. Well, they're probably just about getting up now, aren't they? Good day, boys.
Thank God for Adam Sinfield laying down the law with a few people.
So I had to get that one in there. But yeah, no, it's all good fun. Good fun.
But look, guys, I mean, you can all, to a man, feel rightly proud, though, because at the end of the day, on that final awards ceremony, you all stood together on the podium and were awarded silver medals.
It was amazing. I honestly thought so. I didn't check the scores really until the end of day one. So I shot all right all the way through day one. I think I was 5 down going into the last stage of day one. And I checked it after I'd finished the last stage, which I don't even really want to talk about the last stage. Those 4 points will live with me forever. But I couldn't quite believe that this little gun-hating rock in the middle of the North Atlantic, the people who I shoot with week in, week out, were right there. Like, I open up the phone and up to the last stage, it says Ben Wood, and at the top of the leaderboard, you just think, hang on, these are boys who don't shoot week in, week out, who can't walk in the back garden and shoot, who can't walk into a shop and buy a rifle, who have all these sort of barriers to entry, yet with that all taken into account, we are still right there. I thought it gives great confidence moving forward.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Tom, did you have something to say there? Your screen lit up.
No, not me.
No,
man of many words.
But you're right, Ben, aren't you? There is a lot of things that either just stop us even picking up a rifle.
Yeah.
Let alone being able to, once we've got the opportunity to pick up a rifle, to actually use it as often as we'd like to, and as often as a lot of the other countries are able to train and practice and get ready for these sorts of events. But for you guys to end up on that podium, silver medalists, I think it was just an amazing achievement. And I guess you're all feeling very, very proud of yourselves.
Yeah. I think they're all very modest.
I know. Come on, guys.
It was pretty cool. The result's great. Silver just means that you were, the second best team. I think all of us are competitive enough that we've all come away from that. We know we left points out there, and we will all have been sat in a car driving somewhere and had that what if thought with ourselves. There's no avoiding that. It's going to happen. But certainly, I mean, I think as we were, I distinctly remember walking up and trying to climb up Tom, or it was either Tom or Dean's back, as we were walking up, sort of up there. And I just thought, exactly as everybody said, you know, we're pretty much a very anti-gun nation, a tiny little pebble in the middle of the sea. There's such a small sort of pool of shooters to call upon, and you know, there we were rubbing shoulders with, you know, the guys that, you know, we all see on YouTube and social media and all of that. You know, let's face it, any other day with more experience and preparation, it was good. And the discussions, you know, I speak with a lot of the Americans and with American industry people fairly regularly, and you know, the talk was how much the Europeans and the Brits especially have closed the gap. If you think back to, you know, the centre fire, you know, the Americans still lead the way, undoubtedly. And with the rim fires, the gap was closed, and that's fantastic. You know, I mean, going in, I was thinking how good the Canadians, how good the Aussies are. You know, knowing the talent pool that they've got, knowing the talent pool the Americans have, and it's like, well, you know, if we go there and do everything that we can do, you know, we could probably get in the mix. And I think we proved that. That was an incredibly proud moment. I mean, standing up there, all of us just got these big beaming smiles on the podium, and Christian, you know, with you presenting the medals to us, it's cherry on top.
I've got to say, it was, you know, as somebody who would dearly love to be able to compete myself at one of these World Championships, but understanding that I'm certainly not at the level that you guys are at in terms of my shooting ability. You know, I take a lot of pleasure out of seeing you guys do so well at these events, and obviously, you know, I take a lot of pleasure out of seeing Luca at my son at these events as well. But being asked in the absence of Marcus Olsen, the chairman of the IPRF, to represent the IPRF at the closing ceremony was one of my proudest moments personally, you know, in my time in sport. And the icing on the cake was to be able to give you guys the silver medal, to be able to award to the open division shooters, you know, the gold medal to the Americans, then you guys silver medals. It was just an amazing experience for me as well. So, you know, something that I'll carry with me forever. Not sure I'll ever get that opportunity to do something like that again. And, you know, it just made it all the more special that you guys were up on the podium and I got the opportunity to give you the medals. So, yeah, thank you for being on the podium to give me the opportunity to do that. I really enjoyed it. So you talked there about being so close to other nations in the world, and clearly the Americans are the team that everybody needs to get after. And you've talked there about leaving points behind on the range, and it sounds to me like there might be a little bit of a fire in the belly now to keep pushing forward, to keep improving. And I'm seeing a couple of people nodding their heads, yeah, and wanting to have that top spot on the podium in open division. So I'm not thinking about centerfire right now, but just sticking with PR22. Next Worlds is in 2025, and I'm fully expecting you guys to want to qualify for that. Our qualification season to be next year. But would you love to see that event in the UK and giving us a little bit of home advantage?
I wouldn't say it's home advantage. I'd love to see it in the UK purely because it's going to bring everybody in, and everybody's going to be wanting to know from an industry. It's going to bring a lot of outsiders, be a huge level of support. From my point of view, when I heard that rumor in Italy, I got excited. I'm not going to lie. I've started preparing for if there's a chance of a home world championship in 2025, that's something I ideally want to be a part of, and I would love to go into that as the best shooter I could be.
Yeah,
I've started back at the gym, for crikey's sake. So, you know, stranger things have happened.
You're taking it far too seriously, right?
I got a very proud picture of I have accomplished a pull-up.
Two.
I couldn't. So well done.
Does that hold true for everybody else then? Keen to qualify for 2025 next year?
Yeah, absolutely. I getting the new barrel and stuff put on the rifle means I'm going to have one setup which I've not got to chop and change all the time, so I can just really concentrate on one rifle basically. I think that's been a big hindrance for my shooting, swapping between the centre fire and the rim fire. But yeah, the fire to get into the team for 2025 is definitely lit, and we're going to be doing everything we can to get there.
I think
fantastic.
How far everybody's come. I mean, look at where all of us were 3 years ago before any of this was even a thing, and then look where we were last year, and then look at how far our achievements have come now. I mean, by the time it gets to 2025, there's going to be a whole lot more people than us, just us pushing. A whole lot more people than us from the UK pushing, and that's only, like Ryan said, rising tides raise all ships. And I really think that saying's a great way of looking at it. That it can, well, maybe it can get worse, but it is only going to get better, and people are going to push harder and harder. And I think it's a really exciting time to be involved. And particularly if anybody's not involved already, for such an easily accessible aspect of the sport as PR22, everybody's got a rabbit gun. That's all you need. Get out there and have a go. I cannot recommend it highly enough.
And such a big network and still growing network of Home Office approved clubs and ranges around the country. You know, it's the sport is getting closer and closer to where everybody lives. You know, we talked about earlier about, you know, a lot of people are doing a lot of travel, and that just goes to show the commitment that those people have to the sport. But very, very soon, you won't have to travel very far if you want to shoot a match. And you don't have to be wanting to shoot a match to try and, you know, qualify for, you know, a spot on Team Great Britain. You can do it just for the enjoyment of shooting a match. And, you know, if we can have a match within an hour's driving distance of everybody in the UK, I mean, that would be absolutely fantastic.
That's the goal.
First of all, if you're on this podcast and you're not excited about 2025 being in the UK, you shouldn't be on it. You should just hang up your little phone thingy now and go sleep.
Aggressive, Andre.
Let me just quickly say, it's not in the UK as of now.
I know. We said if
we're
lucky, the caveat.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
We'd
certainly like to bid for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
If we decide to bid for it, and if we were lucky enough to get it, I think it'll be a massive shot in the arm for the sport as itself. For us to showcase what the sport is about, bring the whole world to our little rock in the middle of the ocean, and show them how it's done as well. With Ryan's, you know, we can get a pull-up bar, get one of the stages there, get him going on that.
If we could make everybody weigh the same as I do, that'd be great.
Yeah. Just give him a pack of straws a day. They'll get their swimming nuts. No, I honestly think it'll be a massive boost for the sport itself, and I think we're all chomping at the bit to you know, to get the finale done and then start working on the next qualification round.
Absolutely. So what about centre fire? Next year's USA. You guys all aspirations of going out qualifying and shooting in USA next year?
I think some of us have in pretty safe spots. I think some of us, it will come down to the absolute wire. I'm looking at you when I say that, Christian.
Oh yeah, fourth place factory.
But you're in at the moment, aren't you?
I'm in at the moment, yeah.
Yeah, well done. Well done.
Good, yeah, but there's one match to go, and unfortunately for me, some guys that are very, very good shooters have decided to switch over to factory, and that's making my position, my hold on fourth place, very tenuous. So
who would do that?
29th of December.
Hands.
Sorry, Ben, what was that?
Your life is in Mr. Hadfield's hands.
Mr. Hadfield's pulling out of factory, I'm afraid. He's not going to be able to shoot centre fire this year.
Oh.
Hey,
You're getting that man's year.
I'm getting.
Well done.
No, I'm
borrow your
Dean,
AI for the last comp.
Dean, I'm joking, mate. I'd love to see the best shooters. To Lawrence's point earlier, I'd love to see the best shooters in USA, and if that means that I don't get to go out in factory division, I'll take more pleasure from going out there and seeing Luca shoot in the junior division than what I'd ever get personally shooting the match myself. So don't worry about me. My enjoyment is guaranteed either way. Go on, Ryan.
I just got a question with you've experienced it a lot more than any of us have. How much enjoyment do you get from watching Luca, your son, shoot the matches? Do you think that could be transferable to somebody listening casually who may turn up and could possibly come and introduce their significant other or a friend or son or daughter?
Yeah, it's an absolute it's a labour of love. Let me put it that way. Yeah, I get so much pleasure and enjoyment out of seeing him get pleasure and enjoyment out of the sport, and I take a lot of pleasure out of spending time with him and spending moments with him. But when he's having a bad day, when he's having a bad moment, and he's not feeling great about how things are going, then that transfers to me as well, and I feel those emotions also. And I felt that very acutely in Italy. On the first day of Luca's shooting, he had some challenges, and he wasn't in a good place, and I wasn't in a good place as a result of that. It was seriously, it's true what they say. You do live your life through your children, but would I change any of it? Absolutely not. It's been, some of the best moments of my life has been sharing those experiences with Luca. And, he came second place at that match on Saturday
he did
in
awesome.
New York. Yeah, he shot very, very well. I mean, he was second place, but he was only a couple of points behind first place. But there was a big gap between him and third place. And some of those guys that he beat at that match, absolutely pulled his pants down in Italy. So it's like, and he was buzzing. He was on a right high, and therefore I was on that high as well. But I just think, back to your question, I just think there's something very, very special about sharing those moments and sharing the sport with people that are close to you and dear to you. So whether it's a significant other, a partner, a family member, a child, a father, I remember when I first got in shooting, I used to go shooting with my father as well. He's sadly hung up his guns now. But I'd definitely encourage anybody to get their partners and significant others and whatever involved in the sport and do it together. I think the pleasure is doubled when it's shared. Absolutely.
Yeah, agree. Cool, thank you.
So USA next year. It's safe to say we're all trying our best to be there. Apart from Dean, sounds like mate, you've decided to stick with the 2-2 for now.
Yeah, full-time dad at the moment, so certified out of the game for me.
Yeah, that's understandable. But I mean, I think everybody's very, very excited about Cameo. About shooting in Colorado. It looks like a fantastic range, fantastic venue, and it's promising to be an unbelievable experience. And Lawrence, you've shot in the States before. Ryan, you've shot in the States before. I'm not sure who else here has shot in the States, but it's Tom. You shot there last year, I believe, didn't you?
Yeah, I shot PRS Finale last year at K&M, and it's just another level going out there shooting with them guys. The way they run the matches and the whole setup is just, it's brilliant.
Yeah, and I was really looking forward to the finals being in South Africa, but for various reasons that wasn't possible. But I think switching over to USA, made perfect sense. And I think everybody's very, very excited about the prospect. But what about 2026 after USA? Let's think further into the future. After 2024, where do we think 2026 should be?
We're shooting in Deer again, aren't we? It's another UK championship, isn't it? I thought we're tag teaming it and double stacking it.
That's
Let me put it this way: where would you like to see 2020? Where would you like to see 2026?
I'd love it to go to Norway. I think obviously Ryan and a couple of lads went over and shot the Viking Trail. Having been to Norway, the terrain it screams PRS. Like the worst thing for me, I know this may be controversial, is to shoot PRS on a flat gallery range. Like for me, it's designed to be just topography, mountainous, in its sort of purest form. I think it would lend itself perfectly to a World Championships.
Yeah, if we take the Viking Trails as a kind of, I mean, that was 3 matches in 3 days, massive matches, in 3 different venues. Runar and his team, I don't know if he's going to be involved or who's going to run it if they do bid or it goes there. But if that was anything to go by, you really would struggle to compete with that. Just the topography, the scenery, the people. It was an amazing trip, and I would not even think for a second before I put my money down to go do that trip. 100%. I'll build 3 more guns to qualify for. Oh, sorry, to qualify for that trip. Apologies for that one. You have to kind of beep that one out there, I think. It's a good old trip.
You guys are quite well travelled now, aren't you, as international shooters, whether it's shooting in France, Italy, America, Norway, any other countries that you've shot a match in?
Yeah, well, I've actually travelled home to go shoot a match, so or my old home to go shoot a match. So
South Africa?
Probably, yeah, I've shot 2 matches
South
there.
Africa.
Oh, 3 matches there. But yeah, so I've got visa issues to deal with before going to America next year. So if I can get all that sorted out, yeah, I'll be looking forward to trying to see what a match there is like. But in all honesty, so far, if you're looking at full bore stuff, Norway is an amazing place to go shoot. So
the whole world from a PRS perspective is getting smaller. Next year this year Lawrence has shot the DLR series in Italy. Which looks fantastic. I'm gutted I couldn't make it over to some of those. And then next year there's going to be more PRS matches, which will count towards PRS Pro Series points for the top US guys. So I think we'll see more people traveling because it's easy to get to Europe. It's easy to get here with rifles. And certainly from our point of view, if it's within a day's drive, well, Andre, Jack, and Benny Mac and myself, we spent nearly 2 days together at either end of a long trip in a truck, crossing Europe. So it's really not that difficult to travel with firearms. And I think the more people that go and do it, and again, it comes back to that point, the more people who get used to traveling and the admin and the organization that's required to travel with guns, because you're away from your comfort zone. You can't just call somebody or call on a favor. You are literally there on your own. You need to be able to be self-sufficient. You're traveling there with spare triggers, scopes, everything else, and just making sure that you've got what you need so as you can stay in the match and keep doing it. And as more people gain that experience, I think we'll see more and more shooters. We've seen a few Europeans come over to the UK this year. I think we'll see a lot more next year, especially for the great job the guys at PRS UK have been doing. And I think we'll also see more UK shooters traveling to the continent. Lawrence has blazed the trail there. And I also think we'll see more from the US traveling across to Europe, particularly the top boys. If it's counting towards their Pro Series points, I think they'll be coming over to acquire some big points. And that, again, having the top US shooters, being able to be around them, watch how they go about things and how they approach it. I mean, even the regional matches in the US they're at a different level to what we have, because there are so many people who could shoot a match and win it. And having the experience of being around those guys where they can make every shot count and get all those shots off inside 90 seconds is going to be great for not just for the Brits, but I think for the entire continent.
I mean, it's clear from talking to you guys tonight that, there's a lot of passion on the call about the sport, and a lot of optimism and excitement about what's over the horizon and what's coming next. Just quickly, I wasn't going to talk about this, but do you see any challenges to the sport right now, or is it all plain sailing going forward?
Licensing and venues.
Yeah, licensing. I've had my own. I won't go too far into it, but I've had my own sort of problems with licensing. I think that is one of the biggest barriers to entry in the UK. It can be really tricky depending on your sort of constabulary. You can have your own sort of nuances, should we say. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Venues, as Lawrence says. I think if we can get, especially with 2-2, I think if we can get clay grounds sort of almost on the uptake with it, for a couple of reasons. The topography of clay grounds mostly lends itself to PR22 really well. And noise, that everyone loves a quiet sport. So 2-2 definitely is that. So I think if we can get them on board with that, that would open up a whole new sort of element to explore.
And I don't know what it was like for you guys, but Italy really opened my eyes to the opportunities that you could gain from clay pigeon grounds, from clay grounds for the sport.
Yeah. We've got big shoes to fill if we want to sort of put on a show for the whole world to come and see. I think the Italians really, really smashed it. Like, the course of fire was amazing. Some of the props were fantastic. Like, everyone will laugh, but I'm a very sort of frequent user of a tripod rear, but like I didn't use it at all. Every prop was fantastic. All the targetry was brilliant. It was just a really well put together, thought through course of fire. And I think the topography allowed that to be maybe easier for the match director, because it was so varied. You've gone from like a gallery range down the bottom to a mountain and then a lake. Like, it was just brilliant. Really, really impressive.
Well, let's remember that was a collaborative effort in terms of the course of fire and match directing with the French as well. So it wasn't, the Italians did a great job, but the French played their part.
No, I think it was Xavier MD.
Yeah,
he did. I had a couple of conversations with him throughout, because I think we all probably had issues because a lot of the spotters weren't actual shooters, so there was a few issues with spotters. But no, Xavier was brilliant. He very concise in the way he did things.
Sorry, Andrea, you had something to say.
No, I was just going to pop on, like Ben said, is getting venues and that. But I think the biggest thing is the stigma around shooting. When you say shooting, especially, I mean, I can only talk from my own experience. My wife would tell some of her colleagues that I do shooting competitions or I go shoot. And instantly they think that we're going to kill deer, or we're doing this or we're doing that. And most of them don't even have a clue of how difficult the sport is or how entertaining it actually is. I think PRS as a shooting sport is one of the only shooting sports, bar clay or sports skeet, and that which lends itself to actually being a spectator sport. I think if we are lucky enough if we do bid and we are lucky enough to get it, I think we owe it to ourselves and to the sport to create an environment where we do invite spectators to come spectate the sport. I mean, it's a world championship event. To not cater for spectators and invite spectators and invite people to come and have a look and see actually what it is we do. First of all, you'll encourage people to join the sport, and you will take away the stigma that people have about shooting sports. So yeah, that's just my idle.
It would leave a great legacy, I think.
Yeah, I honestly think if we can change the stigma around shooting, and PRS lends itself so much better to spectating than any other shooting sport, that we are missing a trick by not entertaining spectators or creating something for spectators to come at least sit there for a day or half a day and just come see what we do.
I just think when you've got this sort of nation of kids who run, I'm sure we all did it as kids. We all ran around the woods with a stick and it's a gun. Like if we can sort of get those interested in shooting, it's not just the benefits within our own sport, but it's the benefits of like, if you have firearms, your discipline, your everything has to be sort of impeccable. So it's breeding a generation of good human beings as well. And not only benefiting our sport, but benefiting the sort of population as a general. So I think if we can get kids interested by spectating, make it easy for them to sort of transition and have a go, you breed a good generation of humans alongside it.
You
That's
obviously have
awesome.
only got one little one. I'm not looking after other people's kids. No, that's fine. They can come watch.
One other threat, I think, Christian, obviously, licensing and legislation, particularly with the health and safety executive and the lead ammunition consultation. I think as shooters in the UK as a group are not vocal enough in voicing opposition to legislation that's threatening towards what we do. And it was, I was in a meeting yesterday with a major ammunition manufacturer. And, the lead ban, as everybody's calling it, it's not a lead ban yet, it's a consultation. That should be on the forefront of everybody's minds. Everybody should be responding to that. If you're a shooter and you're involved in shooting, you've got skin in the game. And being aware of the legislation and how you can positively impact that, offering up your opinions, and potentially, if the consultation, the recommendations go through, well, we've got 4 years left of doing this, and then outdoor ranges that can't reclaim lead won't exist anymore.
Yeah,
and there's no outdoor ranges that have danger templates for copper bullets.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating. There was the targetry that was used at the match that me and Luca were at on Saturday in New York. The guy who makes the targetry, he was trying bullet catchers, and that's something that you see in Europe get used occasionally as well. And it was basically a wooden box that the targets sat inside, and it had big, thick beams of wood at the back. And he was talking, it was a prototype, and he said he might replace that with steel, ballistic curtains, something like that. But all the bullets were all getting caught within these target catchers. It was quite an interesting approach to it. But then, as we know, when we're shooting, we like to see a bit of splash, don't we? And other indications of where your bullet's going. And it almost felt a bit wrong, actually, seeing where your bullet was hitting on the back, like just behind. It was like, oh, that just feels like that's a bit too much feedback than what we should be having. So it was like, yeah, I was like a smidgen over to the right. Let me just adjust for that. So yeah, it's an interesting one, and where there's a will, there's a way. We're always going to come up with novel ways to address these things, but the question is, will every range have the facilities or the resources to be able to adapt to some of those challenges? It's going to be interesting times. Best thing we can do is just make sure it doesn't happen.
Just got to keep on keeping on and paint a positive picture of what we're doing.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is fact science. Well, I do talk. I am talking under correction, but it's only the oxide that is poisonous. So there's a lot to say about having a proper scientific viewpoint and pushing that rather than just an emotional point to it.
Yeah.
Just glanced at my watch. I think we've been talking for 2 hours.
Really?
Yeah. Set another record, longest podcast yet.
Yeah. I think this might be the longest one, but what do you expect when there's 7 of us all together? There's a lot of things to talk about and get through. I'm gonna try and wrap it up. I'm not going to stifle things if you guys want to keep talking, but I'm going to try and wrap things up a little bit. So, guys, is there any topics that you feel we haven't covered tonight that you would have liked to have talked about?
I'm going to say no because
I'll take silence as a...
So I'm going to say no.
We can do other podcasts. Don't worry, we don't have to
come back for another one.
Yeah, if anybody ever wants to come back and do a podcast, let me know, and we'll have a look at getting something organised. That's absolutely fine. So
just one
there might
thing,
not be any
Christian.
more.
Sorry, mate. I know I've spoken a lot, but I don't feel we could wrap up any sort of series on speaking with everybody involved in Italy without putting a huge amount of attention on, the guys who made it happen. Like yourself, arranging that zero range, Jack Crawford and Adam Sinfield with their organisation, and everybody who was behind the scenes. You think Marcus Simpson from Simpson's Brothers Gun Shop, running up and down that hill with cold drinks and food. Adam buying massive rounds of ice creams for everybody. Jack getting involved in arbitration, speaking French. So it's the communication. I think everybody from the GBPRA needs to really be proud of what was achieved, because there was a lot of fantastic individual and team achievements that only happened because of the work of the committee and the guys from the GBPRA, whether you're involved with the hotels, fetching water, or just making sure everybody's in the right place at the right time. And we can't really, I don't think, wrap up the Italy debrief, so to speak, without a nod to the head of thank you everybody involved in herding cats and making sure that the right people got to the right place and everybody had their rifle and their ammunition, so they could just get on and guns go bang and target goes ding.
And then there was those people that put things like prizes forward for the raffle that helped with some of the funding for the logistics of the trip, and everybody supported with putting on matches and events up and down the country so that we could hold a qualification series. And there are so many people that we could reference and thank. But what it all comes down to is, it felt like the community really, really got behind the campaign and made it the success that it was. So yeah, thanks if you're listening and watching and you played whatever small part you played in our qualification series, in the actual organisation and the running of the trip over to Italy. You definitely have our appreciation and thanks for that.
Just a little caveat on that one.
All right, thank you. I think you're right. It was important we mentioned that.
Yeah, well done. The other thing is, sorry, I just chiming in the last bit from me, is that if you're watching this and you don't have your local club involved in PR22 and you would like to get them involved, please get in touch with the GBPRA committee. I know there's quite a few of us that are more than willing to come help out, set up matches, help you guys get going. I mean, the PR22 is the first step into the precision rifle world. It's the easiest bit to get into. So we're more than willing to obviously give advice, help where we can, give our time to come help you guys set up. So anybody that's looking to start PR22, get in touch. Well, I personally am more than happy to come help out where I can.
Yeah, especially any clubs in the northeast of England. Just
well, then you have to put me up. I'm not trying.
Not for any personal reasons, but if anybody wants to run matches in the northeast of England, give me a shout.
Yeah.
I need more closer to home. I'm fed up with going down to Wales. Thanks for that, Andre.
If we are wrapping up now, can I jump?
Yeah, I was actually gonna go around the house and give everybody a chance to speak. So, Lawrence, you go next, mate.
Thank you very much. So just to say to everybody, again, like Ryan said, anybody and everybody who's involved, particularly you guys from the GBPRA, I can't thank you enough. Obviously, we're coming to the end of the season now in the UK. There is one more match on the 29th of December, hosted by C2 Precision down on Exmoor in the southwest, where I am. It's a new match site, a new match venue, and it's really exciting. It's going to be a great way to finish off the season. So if you're not booked onto that already, whether you've shot a match or not, if you're listening to this and you're interested in the sport, just come along or get booked on, whatever you want to do. Everybody's going to be welcome. And thank you very much to all of you guys, and also anybody who supports me and helps make this possible. C2 Precision, Sportsman Gun Centre, Accuracy International, Phoenix, Night Force, Arc Ballistics, Celtic. I'm grateful to anybody who's had a part in all of this, and I think as we all are.
Yeah, no, that's a good point out, that match, 29th of December. Please, anybody, go book onto that. Get in touch with C2 Precision, but please no more factory shooters, because I want to go to USA. But I guess, Lawrence, we should probably also mention, and I'm probably going to look at Ryan for this because this is close to Ryan's heart, but 10th of December, Ryan.
Oh, yeah, 10th of December. So you have the Air Rifle League of Great Britain, which will be precision rifle shooting with sub 12 foot-pound air guns, happening at Brook Valley Airgun Club, which is just off of junction 16 of the M6. I foresee massive growth from that, and it's being covered by some of the big YouTube channels. The guys are a super slick operation. They're really wanting to grow this, and I see the Air Rifle League of Great Britain exploding next year with events and air rifle clubs coming on, because air rifle shooting has been a mainstay in British shooting for a long, long time. And PRS brings that level of excitement and skill with it that is completely different to anything else that is offered with an air rifle. So that would be pretty cool.
So true to say, you don't need a firearm certificate anymore to be able to shoot precision rifle.
Just turn up with a sub 12 gun and run what you brung.
Yeah, game changer that for the sport.
Oh yeah,
absolute game changer. Yeah, thanks for that. Lawrence was quite right. The match on the 29th of December is the last qualification match. There is one more precision rifle centre fire match just ahead of that, and that's on the 2nd of December at the home of Shooting Bisley. Just outside of London. So again, if anybody's wanting to shoot that match, not a qualifier, but certainly another centre fire precision rifle match that's on the calendar. It's down there in the southeast of the country for anybody who's fancying giving it a go and is down that neck of the woods. Great, Tom. Any final messages for our listeners?
Yeah, not really. Just if you're thinking about having a go, just go and do it. We'll all help you out. We've all got kit. We don't mind lending it. It's the ammo's cheap. It's the competition's the cheap. It's just a brilliant way to get into it. Yeah, just come along.
Yeah. So if you're listening and you want to reach out to anybody, everybody who's on the podcast tonight is on social media somewhere, and I'm sure if they took a message from you, they'd be happy to answer it. If you wanted to get in touch with the GBPR, well, I should actually mention, you probably don't want to go to Tom's social media channel, though, because you might get the wrong one and get scammed. I'm just saying.
Crypto advice.
Bought a Tesla.
Yeah, I'm just saying, Tom is not a Tesla driver. He is not a new billionaire through crypto. It was all a scam. But no, reach out to people on social media if you want to talk to people about the sport, or you can go to www.gbpra.co.uk, where you'll find more information about the sport and links to match providers up and down the country, such as PRS UK, C2 Precision, Gardeners Guns, as well as some links into our PR22 affiliate scheme run through Home Office approved clubs up and down the country. So a good source of information there. And if you want any more information about the GBPRA, just email into info@gbpra.co.uk. Thanks for that, Tom. Ben, any final messages?
I think I'd just be echoing what everyone else has said, really. I don't want anyone to feel as if there's a barrier to entry for it. Like, genuinely, everyone wants to throw kit at you and just come and have a go. I doubt anyone will take money off you for ammo. Just if you really do want to come and have a go, look on the GBPRA website. I think Jack's got most of the dates on there for all the club shoots. Find one you fancy. Contact, I'm sure, Jack, Crawford, yourself, Christian, Adam, any one of them would help put you in the right direction for sort of setting you up with somebody to come and have a go and yeah, get involved. It'd be great to see a load of new faces in next year. Obviously, as well, the NRA have got centre fire training dates coming up next year too. We just done one a couple of weeks ago. I'm sure rifles can be arranged to be used, but that's a great way in if you sort of want to do it in a more classroom setting. But yeah, everyone's said about sort of Jack, yourself, Adam, Andre as well, helping as far as Italy. But I think if we can get more new people shooting, I think it'll be great for everyone.
Great. Thanks, Ben. Dean, any final messages?
Just mainly, I'm quite surprised that there isn't more of the sort of hunting fraternity taken to it. You know, your foxes, your deer stalkers, anybody that's ever tried to take a shot off of a fence or a tree stump, gate post. It's the sport that will just up your game for that, really. I know with my foxing, it's just brought it to a whole nother level. You can get set up and take a confident shot in no time. So for that side of things, I think in a few years, when a lot more of the guys that do shoot that come across, the sport will change entirely, and it'll be a lot more fun. Looking forward to that.
So fair to say, Dean, whatever standard of shooting you think you're at right now, come and shoot a precision rifle match and you might find that you'll learn a few new tricks.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Great,
excellent. Tom, I think it's definitely helped Tom's sort of success rate within his hunting, hasn't it?
Yeah, it needs a bit more success at the moment, but yeah, it's definitely helped.
It hasn't helped you, Ben, though, has it?
We're not going to start getting into the ethics of hunting or anything, are we, Ben?
No, Tom,
don't do that.
I'll get back on my quad.
Yeah.
Right, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure spending some time with you tonight, and I'm sure our listeners are going to very much appreciate tonight's episode. I think it's been a cracking one with a lot of good information about the sport. So thanks from me again for joining me. Congratulations on your success in Italy. You made yourselves, your family, the country very, very proud. And let's not be strangers. Let's do another podcast soon.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Good night.
Keep well, guys.
Be kind to one another.
Be kind to one another. That was getting a bit cliche. I decided to drop it. All right.
Okay, guys.
Cheers now. Good night.
Good night.